Well, welcome to my channel, which is Grumpy Old Exile, and this is where I'm going to be basically giving my views on things away from the exiles, and it's called Grumpy Old Exile because, as you can tell, I'm quite old. I'm an exile, and I'm getting to that age now where I'm a bit grumpy. So the idea is that I will just say things that are on my mind, my views, stayed as they are on whatever, and we'll see what comes out at the end of it. The first thing that I would like to talk about is this idea of martial experience. The social media is quite rife with a lot of people that sort of claim to have lots and lots of martial experience. I had somebody just this last week turn around to me, and one of their opening sentences was, I have 30 years martial experience. Well, bully for you. Martial experience means nothing. That could be 30 years sitting there just doing the same repetition. It could be 30 years doing 30 martial arts, each for part-time for a year. Or it could be somebody who's actually been serious in an art for 30 years. But as far as HEMA goes, this may or may not be relevant. If they've been doing, let's say, for example, karate for 30 years, they'll know about distance, body mechanics, biomechanics, blah, blah, blah. They'll know absolutely bugger all about European systems, swords, the weapons involved, and everything like this. So it's not the first time I've been here. I think a couple of months ago, some guy said, "Oh, I've got 40 years martial experience." And the bottom line is, who gives a toss? I don't care. Anybody reading it doesn't care. Anybody reading it doesn't actually think that you're that good because you've had 30 years martial experience, 40 years martial experience. Myself, I've been doing the exiles for 20 years. And I did a bit of HEMA for a couple of years before that, before I found the exiles, before I found the actual group down in London. And I would say that in our early days, we were learning stuff, yes, we were doing a martial arts, but we were also discovering, we also find out what, in our case, Fury was about. So I could never claim 20 years martial experience. And for God's sake, I mean, Fury, we've got references to him in the 1380s where he's called a master. He wrote his manuscript in 1410 and says he's been doing it for 50 years. So under that basis, he, within 20 years, had become a master. I've been doing it 20 years. No way. I'm a student, and that's the bottom line. Everybody does HEMA is a student. I don't give a toss on how much martial experience you've got. What is applicable is only what you can do and what you can actually demonstrate. As it happened, the guy who claimed 30 years martial experience linked to a YouTube video where he'd been teaching Fury. And the interesting thing was that there's no Fury in it. He'd been teaching it, claimed it was Fury, and there was zero Fury in there, apart from they were maybe holding a sword, they were maybe holding a dagger. That's as close as it got to Fury. There's no Lichtenauer in there. In fact, there's no HEMA that I've ever seen in there before. It had probably come from some Eastern art, and it was trying to overlap that onto an historical European martial art, and that just doesn't work. So my first little rant is that if you claim to have X years of martial experience, don't put it out there. I don't care. Nobody else cares. It means nothing unless you can turn around and say you've been doing HEMA, a particular art in HEMA, at a high skill level for 30 years, which nobody can, then it's irrelevant. I would say if somebody's been doing HEMA for 10 years, they should know their stuff. If they've been working with people who have also been doing it 10 years, if they know the manuscripts, if they know the system that they're involved with, 15 years, 20 years, in those days they were experimenting. They were still learning, they were still trying to find out what was going on. So, bottom line is, guys, don't give us bollocks about X years of experience. It's not a good opening line. It means nothing. It might work under other martial art forums. It means bugger all to us. In fact, it just makes you look a bit like a dick. So, that's my first little rant, and I will be doing more. Thank you very much.